Welcome back to the Reconnection podcast. Today, we're continuing our conversation about the expansion of the Reconnection Intensive into a full 90-day experience. Dr. Barta, one of the phrases you keep using is insight alone does not create change. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think one of the biggest misunderstandings in recovery is believing that awareness automatically creates transformation, right? It's incredibly important to have the awareness, but awareness alone doesn't create transformation. Man can fully understand why he developed these behaviors. He can understand trauma, attachment wounds, emotional avoidance, intimacy disorder, and even recognize exactly why he disconnects. But when stress hits the nervous system in real life, understanding alone often disappears because survival patterns are stronger than insight alone.
That's a very powerful statement.
It is true. And most men enter treatment already knowing what they should do. The problem is they cannot consistently access those healthier behaviors when they're emotionally activated. These patterns weren't created logically, they were created out of adaptation. And the nervous system learned them for protection. So healing requires more than information, it requires new experiences repeated consistently over time.
So, is that why the integration phase became so important to you?
100%. So the intensive creates awareness, but the integration phase creates implementation. Men leave the intensive emotionally open, connected, motivated, and hopeful. But then they may return home to stress, shame, fear, conflict, work, pressure, relationship, uh, relationship triggers, and old environments, right? So without structure, many slowly drift back into emotional avoidance and their old nervous system takes over. So instead of expecting men to somehow maintain these major transformations alone, I built a process that continues to support the nervous system after the treatment ends.
So, what actually changes during those 90 days?
The biggest one I would say is consistency. Men learn how to remain emotionally present during discomfort instead of trying to escape it. They learn how to tolerate vulnerability instead of shutting down. They learn how to validate their partner instead of becoming defensive. And they begin to recognize their emotional states earlier instead of after they've already disconnected and done something wrong, right? But most importantly, they stop trying to perform recovery. They begin practicing real emotional honesty. And that's a huge shift.
You talk a lot about emotional exposure. Could you explain that?
Well, yeah, because healing intimacy disorder requires emotional exposure, meaning we cannot hide or we can't heal if if we're stuck in emotional if we're stuck in trying to hide our emotions. And most compulsive behaviors develop because emotional vulnerability felt unsafe to begin with, and that's from something that occurred earlier in life. So these men learn to protect themselves through avoidance, through performance, control, secrecy, emotional shutdown, or even compulsive behaviors. So, what the integration phase gives them is repeated opportunities to practice staying emotionally visible instead of disappearing. The repetition matters enormously at this time.
So the group itself really becomes part of that healing.
100%, right? And so this isn't not this isn't surface level connection, it's real connection. They're constantly practicing what I always preach about, the 4 pillars: the authenticity, the vulnerability, the transparency, and the presence. And the group becomes a place where men practice these things repeatedly instead of only discussing them intellectually.
That's such an important distinction. Recovery is not about collecting more information, it's about creating safety, consistency, and connection for the nervous system to finally begin responding differently. And I think That's what makes the reconnection model so different. Instead of only focusing on stopping behaviors, it helps people understand why those behaviors developed in the first place
Mhm.
and what the brain and autonomic nervous system have been trying to solve all along. Well, Dr. Barta, thank you again for being here and helping us rethink what real healing actually requires. And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Reconnection Podcast. If today's conversation resonated with you, make sure to subscribe, share this episode with someone who may need it, and continue following along as we explore the deeper roots of addiction, intimacy disorder, betrayal trauma, and what true reconnection can look like. We'll see you next time.